Now we have the Pink Pig from Mark Nightingale's Easy Jazzy Tudes book, and what I decided to do with this number was to use a plunger mute. It's not marked on the part, I just thought that it was stylishly and right for this piece. So here we are, a trumpet plunger mute. You may not have seen one of these before. It's a rubber, it's quite deep. This is actually made for a trumpet. You can actually nip down to your local plumbers merchants and buy a plunger mute, buy a plunger which you use for clearing out the sink. But anyway, this is a proper trumpet one. If you do buy one thing to do is to maybe make a couple of holes in the rubber there. I'll explain why you need to do that in a moment. So what can we do with this plunger mute? Well, we can use it to make sort of talking sounds, really, make the trumpet talk. What I'm going to do now is I'll just do a little tiny demonstration. So I'm using the plunger as my articulation, not really using the tongue, using the mute. So I could start off with the plunger closed. So I'll play the plunger closed, not completely closed, but it's over the bell by that kind of much. Okay, so we'll make this sort of sound, which is a more muffled sound before. It's a different sound, but if I move that instead of using my tongue, I can almost re-articulate the note by using the mute. You might have heard that kind of sound before on the Glenn Miller Orchestra recordings, Tuxedo Junction being a very popular and famous one. The trombones go. Using it that way, using the tongue opening and closing, but using it in the way that kind of Duke Ellington and his band played. There's a trumpet player there called Cootie Williams who used the mute to great effect. Jungle sounds, elephant sounds, tiger sounds, all with the mute. He developed a growl. So if you imagine that you're rolling an R or using a growl with the epiglottis, we can get a sort of roar of a tiger. We get that kind of sound. By using the holes that I mentioned earlier, if you completely close the mute over the bell, we can get a very sort of tight sound. And then when we release the mute, of course the sound changes completely. That can be a great effect if you get a section of trumpets playing all closed and then for one note all of a sudden open. It's a great impact. So how do I use it on the Pink Pig? Well, hopefully you've already listened to the recording, and I use it again, like I said, to use the articulation, to use the mute as my articulation. So like this. And in the middle of that, there are 4 crotchets which have little scoop markings up to them. Now, what you could do if you're using the plunger is you could use the plunger as those scoops. So we use the plunger as the articulation. So I'm going to play in that bar. I'm going to play one semi-breve C sharp like this. But if I use the mute, and I just emphasize a bit with the mute, we'll go. So we actually use the mute instead of the tongue to articulate. So great effects. The plunger mute's fantastic for playing around with. Make your own effects up. You know, we can go. Have fun.